All right, well, I'm showing 6:30. So I'd like to welcome everyone here to Upstate Carolina Linux Users Group and the Columbia Linux Users Group, the South Carolina Linux Users Groups. Thank you all for coming tonight. Tonight we've got Andy Carabino, who's going to be showing us SystemD timers, and then Bob Meyer. Is it Meyer or Mayer? How do you?
Meyer, as it's straight out of the German dictionary.
Okay. And Bob will be showing us the Bash command line editing. So really looking forward to both of these tonight. And so Andy, why don't you take it away, please?
All right. Go ahead and share. Switch over. All right. Let me know if you're seeing the slide.
Slide scene.
Okay. So if you guys were here, like 2 months ago now, for Jason's presentation on cron, this is a slight introduction to SystemD timers in basis knowledge of cron, essentially. So what are SystemD timers? They're SystemD unit files, which is a .timer file that control a similarly named unit file, the .service file, and then but I have read that you can control another unit versus the unit option in the timer section if you so set it. They can be, what they say, monotonic, which is, fire at a time relative to a start point, like 60 seconds in or however hours in or days in, or real time, which is what cron does based on the calendar time. So the example I'm going on, and unfortunately it's not going to be live, is the real-time timer for certbot to renew my Let's Encrypt certificates. So if you're familiar with SystemD, the system control command pretty much tells you everything. It's very similar to the service command. In this case, you can display your timers, and this will display the active timers, and then the system control list timers, and then with the -- all to add your inactive timers. So in this case, the one in yellow is my certbot timer, which you can see activates the certbot service. And as of the time I wrote the presentation, it had run 42 minutes prior and had 6 hours left to go. So the .timer file is very simple. It defines the on calendar is what specifies the timing. And it looks similar but not quite identical to a cron time definition. And that randomized delay second value there adds in a random delay, so that way you don't have too many timers overloading the system at the same time. And then the certbot.service is a very simple file to just run the certbot renew in quiet mode. So very, very simple, very easy, but you can obviously extrapolate from there whatever you need to run. The time format, the on-calendar format, is a day of week, year, month, day, hour, minute, second. Day of week is optional. It could be, Monday or month, however you want. It's the full word of the abbreviation. Like cron, you comma separate the values. You can have ranges with the hyphen and the ellipsis, and then wildcards, the star, and then the / for repeats. In the example, it runs both at midnight and noon. And then there is a systemd-analyze command that may be available on your system. On one of my systems it was, and then the other one unfortunately that system was down when I was doing the presentation. So my other system did not have this, but it'll validate your format for the calendar similar to, what was it, Cron Guru, I think, Jace? We'll have to check back from your previous presentation.
Yeah, Cron Guru is what I'd suggest. Yep.
Yeah. And obviously the man page for systemd.time will give you examples and such. Versus Crontab, you've got the if you combine the on calendar value from the dot timer and the exec start from the service, you kind of come out with the equivalent crontab. The nice thing about SystemD timers, if you need it, is that they support seconds. And if the days are written out, so that way you don't kind of have to think whether it's you're doing 1 through 7 or 0 through 6, and which is what. As I mentioned earlier, the randomized delay second value that avoids the congestion. And then you can also, since you've already got a service file defined for your job, you can run it just like a normal system control or systemd service using system control. So that's kind of nice if you need to run something ad hoc. You enable them and disable them just like you do other systemd services. So they do their SIM linking. The only problem with, or a disadvantage compared to cron, is that you have to have both the timer and the service file. In my example, they're both pretty simple. It's not that it's too hard, but it is something additional to manage. My big reference here was the Arch Wiki, and it does have some mentions of utilities that you can use to generate timers from the Crontab files if you're if you've got some legacy cron jobs. Also, and I don't know how many people use this, I don't typically use Mail2 with my crons. At least the output from cron, I will, if I'm making a script up, I may have it generate its own email, but I typically don't use the built-in mail notification from cron. In fact, at work we actually disable it because it causes some hassles. But as I mentioned, the Arch Wiki was my big reference, and it does have a workaround there if you want to check it out. But the nice thing is, instead of having to check the cron log, which might be locked down depending on your system, it's logged in the system journal, which also by default is logged down. But you can actually, I think it's a systemd-journal group that you can add a user to so they can actually view the journal. And then I don't know how many people use the @ command. We use it at work pretty frequently for running things on demand. Actually, I've got, as an aside, on Saturday, I have scheduled to stop things at 10:45 in the morning and start them back up at 8 o'clock at night using the @ command. But the equivalent on with systemd, you can use systemd-run, and then the -- unactive gives you a time similar to the AT value, and then you can issue the actual command like system control start Apache 2, or if you just want to start a service you know about, you could do a -- unit and reference the systemd unit. So that's kind of a side thing I figured out when I was looking up this information. And then there's my resources. Like I said, the Arch Wiki is probably my go-to resource for most things, actually, surprisingly, even if it's I'm not running on Arch. And then obviously the man pages. So there, I made it about 8 minutes, 9 minutes. So it's a short presentation.
What's the difference between the systemd.timer and systemd.time man pages?
Oh, the timer is about the timer itself, the format of the .timer file.
The file format, okay.
Yeah, and the systemd.time is literally just about time formats for systemd. So it's kind of like,
okay.
It should be like man stirred F time or man format or something like that. So there's all sorts of ways to represent time. Myself, I'm kind of an ISO 8601 guy, but that's just because it's human readable and machine readable. So that's it. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I unfortunately killed my Raspberry Pi that was running Arch, or I could log into it and actually show you the timer. So,
does anyone have any questions? Anyone in chat?
Oh, it's
Daryl. Daryl has a question.
Okay. Is it in the chat? No.
Daryl, you're muted, so go ahead and just unmute yourself.
I was just going, how many of the do all the major distributions of Linux run SystemD now?
Oh, yeah, I know RHEL does. We use it at work, and then I believe Ubuntu. Uh, the art,
OpenSUSE.
yeah, Arch comes with it.
Yeah, Debian.
Yeah, Debian. Although there is I think there's a gentleman at the last in person self who was talking about a fork of Debian that was sans systemd.
Devuan.
Debian. Yep.
Yeah.
So Daryl, really the question is, what modern distributions do not have systemd? Is more like
Raspbian, I believe, does not.
yeah.
Blackwell.
So you're going to get probably embedded ones and ones that are specified, like that specifically say not to have systemd because it's so ingrained in everything now. If it's a modern distribution, it's probably
And we use cron all over the place at work, even though it's RHEL, and we've got systemd. Although, in fairness, we have RHEL 5, 6, and 7. So we
Okay, related question. If System 5 has failures, usually enough other stuff is up, it's easy to bring up a system and fix it. So far, my experience with systemd is that if systemd has failures, and it doesn't come up, you're stuck. You can't do anything. Pretty much short of reinstalling everything. Is there something simple that's missing? Some way of bringing up a partial systemd when it breaks?
I am not the best resource for that. I have unfortunately not broken this system.
Yeah, for example,
not broken systemd at least.
Yeah, for example, in System 5, you have different levels. You can come up in single user mode and safe mode and a couple other choices, depending on what's actually still running, and use it to fix the rest. Well.
I don't know.
Well, in both cases, it's really just a matter of what services are running it or not running. In systemd, that's defined by a directory. I'm sorry, in System 5, it's directory defined with your init tab, which directory to look in. But in systemd, it's really what service files are running what services and other things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if your system, right, if your system doesn't come up though, how do you disable potentially broken systems in systemd so you can get up and find out what's running and what isn't?
There is. I mean, typically you end up at multi-user target, I think.
Yeah, you can have single user mode.
Yeah, you can't change the target. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, you start on symlinking things to disable services, but because that's really all it is it's symlinks, similar to how systemd is or System 5 is often symlinks from rc3.d to rc or initd. So it is symlinks similar. But yeah, there's different targets. Because I think there's even like a GUI target versus a non-GUI target.
Okay, I'll look for that. I haven't seen that in the OpenSUSE. I've looked for a way to get to a lower target.
Yeah, see if I go back to where was it? See, wanted by timers.target. So it's the timers.target mode, and then when you enable it.
Okay, but that target is a dependency tree. So How do you change that when you change the target to the System 5 level in the command prompt? So in your bootloader, you would change the target value, typically a number, traditionally the last token on the bootloader command line. But with SystemD, those targets are in the file. If you can't bring up the system in a file editor, how do you do that from the command line or from the bootloader or from something else?
Yeah, that I'm not familiar with. That was just more just showing that it's a similar setup. But
Okay.
yeah, I unfortunately I'm at work. I'm less of a direct Unix admin than
I believe on the
a
command line,
platform guy.
I believe on the command line you can give it target equals single, for example. I may be mistaken in that. It's been a while since I've had to do that. So.
Okay, I'm making notes. I'm going to look for that because that would be very risk reducing if I can find it.
Yeah, because essentially what it is whether you're using System 5 or System D or RC or whatever, that's the final command that's given to the bootloader, right? So you tell it what is init,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever init program that is, whether that be System 5, System D, or RC, or OpenRC, or whatever, is going to have command line arguments to be, that you could pass in.
Okay. Well, I will check that. It's something to check on. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else have any questions?
You're welcome.